The house was dead silent until the baby monitor whispered my name from an empty nursery. On today's episode of The Wander's Tales, we dive where quiet courage prevails. Hidden truths and hearts so bold, stories of fear left untold. If this calls to you, don't delay, subscribe, tap the bell, and stay with us. Thank you. The sun was dipping below the Ngong Hills, casting long, bruised shadows across the manicured lawns of the estate, but inside the house, the light seemed to have died hours ago. Zari stepped through the heavy mahogany door, the click of her heels sounding like a gunshot in the oppressive stillness of the foyer. Usually, the house met her with the chaotic symphony of a life in motion, the rhythmic thumping of a washing machine, the distant hum of the television, or the soft, melodic babble of Amara in her playpen. But tonight, the air felt thick and sterile, as if the oxygen itself had been vacuumed out. She dropped her keys on the console table, expecting to hear Kojo call out from the kitchen about the dinner he'd started. Yet the only sound was the low, electric thrum of the refrigerator. Panic didn't arrive all at once. It began as a cold trickled down her spine as she moved from the kitchen to the living room, finding them eerily pristine. The throw pillows were perfectly fluffed. The dining table was clear of the usual baby bottles and stray pacifiers, and the silence was so absolute it felt like a physical weight pressing against her eardrums. Then, through the heavy quiet, a sound emerged from the upper floor, a jagged, electronic rasp that made her heart seize. It was the baby monitor sitting on the edge of the granite countertop, its green light blinking like a rhythmic, mocking eye. From its tiny speaker came a sound that shouldn't have been possible in an empty house. A low, gravelly intake of breath, followed by a whisper that carried the unmistakable cadence of her own name, drifting through the plastic casing like a ghost in the wires. She stood frozen, her hand hovering over the cold stone of the counter, her mind racing through a dozen logical explanations that all fell short of the chilling reality. The voice wasn't Kojo's, nor was it the high-pitched coo of their daughter. It was a sound filtered through layers of static and malice, a sequence of syllables that felt intimate yet entirely alien. Zari. It hissed again, the S dragging out into a needle-fine point of sound that seemed to vibrate in the very marrow of her bones. She forced her feet to move, driven by a primal maternal instinct that overrode the screaming alarm in her brain, and began to ascend the stairs, her breath coming in shallow, ragged bursts. The staircase, usually a brief transition between the public and private spheres